Hello everyone, this is Kinetic, and I'm here to show you some of the changes to the damage system that has been made in Starbow. So, the first thing to notice is that every type of unit has an armor class. The Marine would be light, the Vulture is medium, the Hydralisk is also medium, and the Dragoon is armored, and so is the Roach. Now, this Vulture has concussive damage, and you can tell by looking over, and if you see the swirly thing, that means that unit has a concussive damage type. If, however, you see this giant wave of yellow, it means it has explosive damage, so when you click on the Hydralisk, you'll see this, as well as a Dragoon. This icon does not change over races. It is always the same. However, the Marine or the Roach has no icon. This means that it does normal damage. Now, normal damage is very straightforward. It means it does a full damage, the full listed damage, to whatever unit it hits. Of course, this does not mean it bypasses armor. A Marine that does base 6 damage, but if it shoots against a Roach, it will only do 4 damage because of the 2 armor. And we can see that right here. Yep, 146 out of 150. Now, the differences come when, say, a Vulture, which does concussive damage, which means 100% versus light units, 50% versus medium units, and 25% of its damage versus armored units. So, a Vulture with its frag grenades does 20 damage base. Now, that means this Marine should end up with 25 health. And there it is. So, that holds true. However, if it shoots a Roach, which is armored, it should only do 5 damage. And, yeah, wait a minute, that's not right. Oh, there seems to be a bug. Okay, it should only do 3 damage because of this 2 armor. However, it seems it does a full 5 damage. Although, okay, no, that's based on... I believe it takes into account armor first, and then it takes into account the concussive damage. So, I learned something today. Either that or it's a glitch. Who knows? Maybe a developer can answer. Anyway, moving on with the demonstration. Explosive damage from the Hydralisk. So that is... Okay, so this is 100% damage versus armored units. So, it should only do 10 damage. Minus 2 for the armor. Okay, that makes sense. Now, the Dragoon. It should do a full 20 damage versus any armored unit. Minus, of course, the armor. However... going back to the concussive damage. Now, it should only do half damage versus medium units, so that would be something like a Hydralisk, which means only 10 damage suffered from a Vulture. And there you have it. Alright. The Dragoon. Dragoon does explosive damage. 100% versus armored, 75% versus medium, and only half damage versus light. So, you see, you got a Marine here, and the Dragoon shoots it. Only takes 10 damage.
Roger that.
Fully armored unit, it should take a full 20. Oh, okay. That one's still damage. And there it is, minus the 2 from the armor. However, if it shoots a Hydralisk, which is medium, boom, only 5. No, 15. Yeah. Alright. Oh, another interesting thing to keep in mind. No matter what kind of damage your unit does, if it shoots against a Protoss unit which that still has its shields up, it will do a full damage regardless of the armor class of the unit. And this is because all Protoss shielding takes full damage from any kind of attack. So think twice before you make Archons to quote-unquote hard counter against Vultures or anything like that. Starbow has changed the way high ground mechanics work. In StarCraft 2, if a unit was on high ground shooting down at you, you couldn't shoot back until you had full vision of it. However, to demonstrate this point further, let's see what happens when these two groups of units fight on flat ground. So as you can see, Dragoons fare fairly well if there is no micro involved, and if it's on flat ground. So let's reset this, and see what happens when the Dragoons press up into a Terran base which has a wall of Marines. As you can see, some of these Marines aren't actually taking damage, and that's because these Dragoons are on a lower elevation than their target, which means they get a 50% chance to miss entirely. So there you have it. 4 Marines beat 2 Dragoons just because of a ramp. So this means, whenever you want to take an advantage, always look for environmental cues. In such cases, you want to be on top of a ramp. Starbow has added overkill into the game as well. Now this means that if a single siege tank can kill a single probe, then it'll go ahead and do it. However, if this probe wanders into the field of fire of all 3 siege tanks at once, all 3 of them will fire at once. Now this is different from StarCraft 2, where they will communicate with each other and only one siege tank will take the shot. So let's see what happens when a group of probes, let's say that you caught a Maynarding, enters this field of fire. Boom, 3 shots on a single probe. As you can see, Starbow has gotten rid of the so-called smart AI. Alright, let's look at that in a more realistic scenario. Let's pretend that your tanks were all boxed up, and you had to siege them up suddenly because you saw the enemy army. So, when you did that, this happened. They were all in a single line, and the Protoss player had the presence of mind to kind of pre-split his units. As you can see, there's a lot of friendly fire going on, as the tanks are shooting up into the line. And of course, these Zealots didn't even have their leg speed. Alright, now it's the exact same scenario, except your tanks are split very well. So let's see what happens when this line of Zealots attacks. So as you can see, the tanks did a lot better. There's a new turret mechanic as well, and this is for any unit which has an attack that can swivel on a turret. So this would include tanks, for sure, and to a somewhat lesser extent Goliaths. Now tanks can swing their turrets around 360 degrees, but Goliaths can only do so in about 180 degrees. Now this comes into play when you want a starter step micro. So as you can see, the Goliath's turning its turret a little bit, but it's eventually going to lose out to the Zealot. However, for the siege tank, it will keep its turret trained on the Zealot, which means it doesn't have to wait for that extra little time to swing the turret around before it fires. Oh, Zealot, come back. Of course, on the other hand, siege tanks of Starbow have a lot longer time delay before their shots. 2.35 seconds. Alright guys, so that was a glance at all the mechanical changes that has taken place in Starbow. Thanks for watching.